All right. Well, hey, welcome back to episode number 3, season 2. We're so glad you're joining us for this episode. We got our lovely show hosts here today. We have Natalie, Aaron, my beautiful wife, Meg. We're so excited because we've created this series called the Showing Up series.
Come on.
We've got about 8 to 9 episodes. We'll see what happens. But of different topics of what it looks like to show up in your home. As a mom, as a dad, for each other. We're going to go through in each episode what it looks like to show up at the dinner table, or showing up when you get home from work, or showing up when maybe you've blown up on your kids. We're going to talk about in each of these episodes coming up just how to stay in it, stay engaged, and hopefully stay in it the right way. So today we're going to be talking about showing up at the dinner table.
Yes.
Or showing up at the home, the table, or in your kitchen. That's kind of the big idea. So we're super excited. But just to introduce the idea of showing up at the dinner table, first of all, I just want to just say this, just right out off the bat, is there's this cool quote I heard from a book or something, but it says that if the home is the body, the table is the heart. I really love that because
I love that too.
Because it just kind of symbolizes the idea that like the table, it's the central place. It's it's where everybody comes and reconvenes.
It's the
at
epicenter.
The end of the day, at the beginning of the day. Yeah, it's the epicenter. Everyone's there. You know, you have food. You make this food, you serve it, and you can enjoy it together, but you're together.
Yes.
Because when, throughout the day, we have so many different things going on. The kids might be going to school or sports. Dad's got to go to work. Mom's taking the kids places or doing school. And, what other time of day do we really have to spend it together than at the table? And so showing up at the table, what else does that mean to you guys?
Yeah, that's so good, Ben. I love how you're reframing the idea of the table. It's not just a place to eat. It's not just a place to have to work to get something to the table. Us moms or whoever's cooking in the house, it's like, oh my gosh, there's so much work put into bringing something to the table to then enjoy one another's company. But when we reframe the table as the, heart of the home and the place where you get to connect and gather and do life with one another, it helps not to just see the table as a place to eat or a transactional environment, but it's a communal kind of connection point in the home. So I love that you wanted to start it off by reframing it that way. I love this idea of showing up at the table because I think that it's one of the greatest places where family identity and kind of home culture is established.
Yes,
you get to really, you get to teach at the table what it looks like to have relationships with one another, what it looks like to listen to one another, what it looks like to ask questions, how to have manners, right? How to not interrupt, all the things, especially if you have toddlers, like that training phase of what it looks like to show up at the table can be a little bit intense sometimes, right? So you want to stay at the table. But I love that. Yes. Aaron, I wanted to pass it off to you real quick because I didn't want to share too much.
Yeah, no, we've used this opportunity. Well, when we talked about building a culture around the table, before we started having kids, one of the things we talked a lot about was we really want our kids to become accustomed to lingering at the table, that it's a time of celebration, a time for storytelling, a time for connection. Yeah. And so, and we've noticed over the years, and in fact, Natalie and I we mentioned this, I think maybe about a week ago, we were cleaning up in the kitchen and the kids were getting ready for bed. And I'm like, wow, we just sat at the table for an hour and 15 minutes.
Wow.
Doesn't happen every time. Don't worry.
It doesn't happen every time, but but like dinner was over and we were lingering and we were having some fruit with dessert and the kids were asking us questions and Grant was wanting me to tell more stories and I read a chapter out of a fun book for us, and so it just became a time for us to focus because, like Ben said, we're really busy during the day and Natalie's working and we might not see her for most of the day, and Grant has some room time and Jade has some room time and I get some downtime, but it's a time for us to connect and focus on each other and look each other in the eye, and it sort of resets us. But it's been really, really good for us. big time. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
Go ahead.
the picture we've painted is very ideal, right? But like the
Yeah.
reality of this question of like, how do you show up at the dinner table is the reason we even ask that is because, I mean, that's hard. Like,
Yes.
I
Yeah.
think
Yeah.
you kind of touched on how it takes training, right? And so, and the reality is we have to eat 3 times a day.
Yep.
So everyone's eating at some point, but it takes work to actually make the environment where you want to do it together and where it's
Good,
like a
Meg.
rich, enjoyable time, like we're talking about, this epicenter of the home. And I think it starts like, that's amazing that you guys talked about this even before having kids.
Yeah.
It's so beautiful.
Yeah.
But that's, I think, why your kids are still young and you're experiencing such fruitfulness already, because it's that intention of what is that time going to look like and how do we
Right.
achieve that? And I think
Yeah.
that's totally where it starts, is like having a vision of, okay, what does the table look like for us? Is this something that we focus on in the morning? Is it something we focus on at dinner time? It can be such an avenue for discipleship of like
Yeah.
the best time to read the Bible with the kids. Like you said,
Right.
have these like intentional conversations and
Yep.
teach the kids to like listen and
Yeah.
Ask questions.
express their ideas and everything. But that takes training.
Yeah,
Serious
takes
training.
work.
Should we dive into the training
Yeah, like,
for a
what does that
minute?
look
What
like?
that took?
Well, hold
Go
on
ahead,
really
Ben.
quick.
Yeah.
I just kind of want to emphasize this, the role as a dad
Oh, yeah.
at the dinner table, and how important that is. I know it's hard, you know, as a dad, you know, we go to work, we leave early in the morning, maybe 8:00, sometimes earlier than that, you know,
Right.
to go to our offices or go to wherever we're working. And we're gone all day, you know. Our wives are home with the kids, training them, you know, educating them or taking them to their different things and different engagements and stuff like that. And then we come home sometimes at dinner time, or usually dinner's over for a lot of dads when they come home. But I think just to convey some sort of vision and passion, I think, around the idea of this, especially for dads and as a dad, sometimes the table is the only moment that you might get in front of your kids a day. You know, just the table, maybe the breakfast table, maybe it's the dinner table. But, you know, if you're waking up early and you're getting ready to go to work, you might kiss them goodbye and then you're coming home and they're already in bed.
Yeah.
And so as a dad who wants to have influence in your kids' lives, who wants to share with them or to show them, you know, what it means to have a relationship with your father, to have a dad that's fun and engaging and, you know, silly and, you know, communicative and can, you know, come down and sit next to them and share with them about their lives or hear from your kids. And
Yeah, this is good.
And it's so important. And it's, you know, especially today in today's day and age with the pace of life and all that, it's like, it's so missed.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, I wouldn't be remiss to say that like it's needed, and to say that, like as dads, there is a way, like we can step it up and we can show up for our family at the table. We can come home. We can say, you know what, boss, my family's worth it.
Yes.
I'm sorry, but I'm going to go home at 4:30 so I can be ready for dinner at 5 or 5:30. And I think we have to put our foot down. And you know, I know that's hard for a lot of people in a lot of positions. You know, maybe you have a leadership position in your company, but at the end of the day, it's going to be worth it because it's going to create longevity in your own pace and in your own, maybe even in your own work environment.
Right.
And you're going to create insurmountable amounts of value for your family that they need.
Right.
Within that, like something that we've found is that we, like a lot of times what that actually looks like of what we're doing at the table is more of like my idea, more of like my vision of, okay, let's like have a time where we're asking these specific questions or let's read this book together. Like I just coming up with more ideas because I'm the one with the kids more and understand, I don't know, more of what's needed, but then like allowing you to be the one that implements it more. And honestly, like the kids listen better and he's the one doing it.
It's so true.
Yep, it is. It's true. And so that's what I'm saying. It's like, and we've learned this, Megan and I have learned that, is like when I don't show up,
Yeah.
you know, maybe I'm there, but sometimes, you know, I'm like tired or there's things going on in my mind. I'm kind of elsewhere, you know, emotionally, mentally. But when I don't show up, both physically and emotionally and mentally, then it's felt and it's known.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's, I mean, I don't know what, if there's like some sort of science or theological situation behind like why our kids typically tend to listen maybe more or pay attention more when dad's there and he's sharing and he's, you know, directing and giving his thoughts. I don't know what that is, but it's true.
Yeah, regardless, dads have a formative piece of shaping the identity of their children in ways that mothers, we nurture. You know, there's plenty of other things we do, but the identity of a child comes from the father specifically. And
it's crazy.
I don't know why. And no matter how many times I wish I could change it, you know, because I want to add identity. You know, we do, of course, as moms also, you know, but there's something about the father figure.
Yeah, I think this is
present.
good for dads to hear because when I was working long hours as an attorney, I was up before the kids were up, out the door, in the office, probably before they were up. And then when I was getting home, dinner was about to hit the table. And I'm coming off of a long work day. And although I had a drive from the office to the house and a chance to debrief, I'm still thinking about my cases and strategy for my cases. And even when I'm walking in the door, and I noticed for a long stretch of time, I'd get to the table. I had just gotten out of my work clothes and into something more comfortable. And I sit down and I've just got this like glazed look on my face, right? And I can see that for a lot of dads across the country where, man, I just put in a long work day and now, you know, there's a lot of noise and I'm not really fully present or intentional and I'm tired and I'm still thinking about work. And that was me for a while. And I thought, wow, there was a moment one night after dinner where I thought, gosh, I didn't say a word.
Yeah.
I just ate, cleaned up, and put the kids to bed and never said anything. And I thought, that's not okay. That's not okay. So I made some adjustments, and some of those adjustments were pretty simple. I took a moment before I walked into the door and I prayed to change my mindset.
Yeah, that's huge.
When I came in, I got out of the work clothes into something more comfortable. I tried to match the mood and the excitement in the house, and I got engaged more quickly. Like, Grant, help me set the table for mom. Dinner's almost ready. And so we did that together. And then I told myself, I've got to have some questions ready for my kids. And so when we sat down, you know, I would lean over and I would make contact with my son and I would touch his shoulder to let him know, like, I'm here. Like, I'm with you. I'm present. Like, how was your day? Tell me about your day. Describe it to me as best you can. And tell me what your high was. What was your low? What made you sad today? What made you smile or laugh? And I just wanted to know as much as I could about his day. And I just looked him in the eye as I ate. And that really changed the dynamic of the table. So if there's dads out there listening, and I'm sure there are, and they maybe have felt that way before, like, how do I get more engaged? Have some questions ready. Do the best you can to get into that mental state of, I'm home now and my kids need to hear my voice. That's important. And just dive in.
That's so good. I love that. Just kind of hitting on what you were saying about grabbing Grant's shoulders, you know, making him aware that you're there. I think that, I mean, going back to the whole concept, you know, whatever it is, this like vague theological, you know, ingrained in humanity's idea about the father figure and the father making sure that he's there. And it's like as a father, you give identity to your family and your people and your children, especially. Even whether or not you're saying specifically certain attributes or certain characteristics or traits that you see in your kids, there's something innate happening inside of each of your children when you are physically and emotionally, like, tangibly showing up in their life in this way, specifically at the dinner table, and you're looking at them in the eye and you're making your presence and your attention directed to them. What it does is it literally makes them feel like, my dad thinks that I'm worth his time and his attention, which is huge, especially for a son. And, you know, both daughters and sons, it's huge. It's massive. Right. And, you know, that's like part of the key here is like, we get to give identity to our children. just by being there and being available and really being in it, both to our children, but then also to our family culture, like you were saying earlier, Natalie, and establishing our culture around our family culture around the dinner table and maintaining this time as a pivotal and special, important, foundational component to our family. Is like we show up for dinner. We show up at the table.
We do table time.
Yeah,
that's right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's right. And
I'd love to hear kind of wrap it up with some of the things that you guys do that are really unique to the table, like the praise and pounding thing.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Can we first share the training, because it took a while to get to where we are now. Oh my gosh, it took a while. So I remember when Grant, even before we were married, we talked about the importance of dinner time, wanting to linger at the table. And so when Grant was very young, we would always go over to Papa's house, Aaron's dad's house, and we would have dinner out there. And we would we would just eat these extravagant meals that our friend would make for us. And we would, it was just this experience at the table. And Grant was 11 months, and 11-month-olds, as you know, don't really sit still for very long. So we tried to figure out, how do we keep this boy at the table so we can all be together? And we don't want him, we definitely didn't want to put a show on. We don't want him to be separated from the family. We wanted to do it together. So we would introduce small, quiet activities for him to do at the table. He could play with a car while we were all lingering and eating, and he could eat fruit, a little bit longer at the table. And what we have found is that over the years, we started doing this with Jade too. We would bust out, no shame, frozen fruit every night at the dinner table. We would eat our meal, and then we would bring out frozen fruit from Costco. We'd get, a big bag of frozen blueberries or a big bag of frozen pineapple. And frozen pineapple is the real deal. And we would just put it in everybody's bowls, and we would just sit and we would eat fruit together. And this came from my mom. My mom was brilliant. After every meal, she would bring out a platter of apples and pears and whatever fruit was ripe that day or that season, and she would just sit there and just cut fruit real slowly, cathartically. You're watching mom just cut fruit, and you're like, all right, is that my slice? Because that's a bigger piece. I want that one.
Wow,
and it would just hone the focus in on, of all things, fruit. But in that moment, mom would ask us questions about our day and questions about our friends at school and what happened to us as she was and she would pass out one piece at a time. And it was just slow little thing that we did. So we started doing that with Grant, where during summer I'd bring a quarter of a watermelon, and I would just cut the watermelon. I'm probably talking way too long about cutting fruit, but
I'm hungry.
Exactly. But it caught the kids' attention, and they every night now they linger, and we just slowly eat a couple pieces of fruit to wash down our dinner meals. It's been so pivotal and helpful for our
I do feel
table
like it's
lingering.
making those little things that are enjoyable for them, whether that's at the start or the end, or both too, is so key, because it's not just a training only of you have to stay until you're excused, but also a training of this is enjoyable. Be here because you want to be.
We're trying to connect sensory delight with the things we want them to also take delight in, right? So it's it tastes good to eat this fruit, but it also tastes good to do life in community, right? And so there's this bigger picture we're trying to communicate to the kids and doing that, and that's been so beautiful. Another thing we've done to make the table experience more fun is the dinner table isn't just the meal. There's a before, a during, and an after. And there's the setting of the table, where everybody has a role. Grant has to set up the napkins. Jade puts the candles on the table. Grant puts the forks all around. And in Grant doing it, Jade, our 2-year-old, gets to see this is what you do. You set the table. We set Aaron always puts certain music on, dinner vibes music. And then, we eat, we have frozen fruit, and then we all have candles. We light candles. Sometimes we've done this a few times on Sabbath nights and stuff, but you light the candle, and every time you do so, you say Christ is light, just to portray this idea of, God is the light of the world, and we are lights of the world as well, like him. And so we do, candle setting, and this might sound like like high stakes or just more like, this is big leagues or whatever. This could be once a week kind of a meal thing, like your highlight of the week where you have like your Friday night dinner or your Saturday night dinner.
Start small.
You do this. But yes,
that's good.
It's become this thing that we do now, and we connect for a while. But then after, we queue up the dance music, and we clear off the table all together as a family. And so everybody takes part in like dance parties and whatnot too. And this happens at least probably 3 nights a week, I would say. Other nights
it wasn't always like that.
Yeah, sometimes the kids eat fast, and Aaron and I do a date night at the table alone. And so it switches here and there, but that's the typical culture of our home.
Yeah. Now, because Meg mentioned it, one last thing is Grant was a chronic pounder. So if you're listening and you're saying, "Oh, my kids love to pound the table," Grant was so bad. Whether it was like the loud, like flask water bottle with just like rings in your ear for a minute after he pounds it, or it's the silverware because you really want him to eat with silverware, but you're like, "Wow, this is terrible."
Fingers are better. Yeah.
Natalie and I thought, what are we going to do about this? Because we just got tired of like, okay, I'm taking your water bottle from you, and when you need it, Daddy will give it to you. Or, okay, I guess you're not ready for the fork just yet. Let's give you the kid one, okay? I thought you were ready for the big boy fork, but apparently you're not. But Natalie was like, I've got an idea. After we pray and bless the meal, let's let them pound the table as hard as they want. That sounds terrible. Let's try it. So we're like, Grant, we're going to set this up for you. Here's what we're going to do. We know you love to pound. Yes. Okay. Daddy's going to pray, or Mama's going to pray for the meal. And when we're done, we're going to pound the table together. Okay. And that's going to be your moment to pound. Get it all out, because after that, there's no more pounding. He got the biggest smile on his face. As loud as I want, as loud as you want, son. Let it rip. Okay. Just your fist. So he said, okay. So we prayed, and we just went after it. We pounded. And we were like, that's it. And he's like, okay. All right, that's good. Honestly, this is crazy. We've never had a problem with pounding after it.
Never had a problem.
I'm not saying it's going to work for you, but for some reason, for us, praise the Lord, it worked for us. And it's amazing. And we still do it to this day, and the kids love it. In fact, sometimes we're all so hungry, we'll dive into our meal, and Grant will be like, oh, we forgot to pray.
So then he wants to pray so badly.
Because he wants to pound, right? So we're like, oh, our son wants us to pray. Hey, how about that?
Yeah.
So that was just something creative that Natalie threw out there that's really worked for us. So I guess, the moral of the story is, just think creatively if you're struggling with some table manners or other things. There's maybe some ways that you can implement the behavior that you don't like for a moment, and that'll be the end of it. Yeah.
Totally.
Exactly.
Yes, it's so special.
So good. So show up at the table.
Yes, show up.
It's huge, and we can't miss it. Breakfast, dinner table, whatever. Show up, guys.
Yeah.
Let's keep showing up for our families, all right?
Amen.
So good.
Amen.
We'll see you on the next episode.
Bye.